he was happy seeing Petra try to stop him, Subaru gently took her fingers off him one by one. As he did so, the sadness in her big eyes spread even further. In an effort to chide Petra, Otto, standing right beside her, tossed his voice her way. "Petra. Mr. Natsuki still has something he needs to do. Until he accomplishes it, Mr. Natsuki will not falter. You understand this well, yes? But, Subaru's weak. It's dangerous. You should stay with him, Mr. Otto. The way you said that doesn't make it sound as if you have much faith in my strength, though." Otto's voice made Petra shake her head. There were tears welling in her eyes as she looked up at Subaru. Subaru got onto his knees so he was on her eye level and then gently stroked her head. "Sorry, Petra. I'm getting you, Ram, and Frederica out of this mansion safe and sound. But it's not just you three. There's one more person I have to bring out of here." "Why, you mean Lady Beatrice? Even though she hates trouble and acts all lonely, she's a total busybody, always trying to do everything by herself, suffering * cause of the dumb answers she comes up with and cowering cause she won't settle things herself." When Subaru described the girl, the loneliness of her existence made Petra widen her eyes. "I mean, Beatrice is pretty much the same age you are, Petra. Your heights might be a little different. Come to think of it, Petra, you might be a lot like her first friend." First friend. Beatrice's first and foremost friend had been Ryazumire. There had to have been a tangible friendship between her and Beatrice. If Beatrice carried the scars that remained all that time, then maybe. "After I come back with Beatrice, you'll probably become friends with her. I'm sure you'll like her, Petra. She's awesomely fun to tease. More than Mr. Otto. Yeah. Fun enough that you won't have use for Otto anymore." Judging from Otto's expression, he wanted to say something, but Subaru 69 Golden Agato MP4 Directs.com deliberately ignored him. Then Subaru stopped stroking Petra's head and rose to his feet. "PLL, go look for Beatrice. I plan to try hard enough that I don't burn to death, but if I do, carve on my tombstone that I died because of the fire from Otto's oil, okay? Inscribing tombstones being too much trouble, I will give you a smacking if you do not return safe and sound. Truly, I will." Otto seemed to wince as he made his declaration. Then he tilted his back, turning Rem's sleeping face Subaru's way. The princess, still asleep as always, couldn't even bear witness to Subaru's resolve as he prepared to depart. That was fine. It wasn't Rem's place to see Subaru off. It was Subaru's job to go to her. Subaru. "Be careful, okay?" Petra offered up her very own repel crystal. Accepting this, Subaru set off. He did not reply to Petra's voice as she called out behind him. Petra didn't need him to do so, either. Bit by bit, the flames were covering the mansion, and the place he had spent many days in was quickly turning to ash. Would the fire reach even the archive of forbidden books? As he looked for the door to reach her, Subaru could not help but wonder. 70 Golden Agato MP4 Directs.com Chapter 4 Next time, I'm sure we'll have T1. Sensing that the trial had begun, Emilia's mind instantly awakened. This trial felt closest to the first one. She was aware of her own existence and firmly conscious that she was undertaking a challenge. It wasn't like the second trial, when her own existence was far more indistinct. However, there was clearly one point that differed from before here: Emilia had no body. Her 5 senses had vanished, and her body had been lost. What was present was her consciousness alone. It felt like her consciousness was floating in the sky. Perhaps this was what it felt like to have one's fickle soul cast into the water by its lonesome. In spite of this mysterious circumstance, Emilia felt no sense of danger as she strove to slowly grasp the situation. Her non-existent brain seemed to understand this place posed no danger and that her mind here was able to have such realizations. Her surroundings were dark. A space of nothing save darkness spread forth, within which Emilia's body did not exist. That she did not lose herself even so was due to the multiple lights that were floating in the darkness. These faint lights of various colors were hovering around Emilia. The glow they emitted resembled that of lesser spirits, but Emilia felt no life force coming from these lights. They were inorganic, perhaps they were closer to magical crystals that gave off light. Either way, she and the lights were the only things in that world. 71 Golden Agito MP4 Directs.com CCI. They continued swimming in that space, with nothing moving but the flow of time. Nay, in that circumstance, she could not firmly grasp whether even time was flowing or not. The witch who normally served as a guide had not appeared. In the darkness, Emilia hesitated over the unchanging situation into which she had been cast. The situation being what it was, her consciousness naturally ended up drawn to the lights. Selecting a silver-colored one from the multitude of lights, Emilia was just a tiny bit apprehensive when she tried to touch it. The very notion of touching assumed you had a body in the first place. Was that even possible here? Rather than ponder, it was faster to try it and see. Reaching that conclusion, Emilia immediately tried it out. Her consciousness overlapped with the light, and this indeed was not touch. It felt more like she was intermingling with it. Hate, I hate you. I really hate you. Really. All of it is true. Always, since the moment I met you, I have hated you. I cannot stand the sight of you. The instant she came into contact with the light, a voice echoed directly into her consciousness. Simultaneously, a powerful, reddish scene leaped toward her. She'd switched spaces, and a moment she had never witnessed played out before her. The sun was unnaturally large. Smoke was rising from the scorched plains, and standing right beside an enormous, decrepit structure, bathed directly in the scarlet sunlight, was a silver-haired girl marred with blood. Emilia. The grown-up version of herself she had only just seen in the second trial was standing there, blood-ridden. TVE thought this many times, and I've denied it many times, but the nightmare truly has come, so I will say it. A smile came over her bloodied face. It was a smile toward the person she 72 Golden Agito MP4 Directs.com hated most in that world. Perhaps it is two we should never have met. At the corner of one of her purple eyes, a tear formed a single line as it gently fell. The drop coursed down her cheek, and just before it fell from her chin onto the blood-marred ground, the world burst apart and vanished. Why her consciousness, lacking a body, could not draw in its breath, all she could do was endure the desperate urge to do so with all her might. As Emilia returned to the darkness once more, she found herself in a world with nothing but her consciousness and the lights floating around her. What was that blood-ridden Emilia in the scene she saw beyond the light just then? Thus far, she had seen her own appearance only twice, but she had definitely seen herself in that moment. The problem was that she had no recollection of anything like that ever happening. Or perhaps that was some kind of future that would never exist. No, Emilia instinctively thought. Calming her chaotic consciousness, Emilia searched within her memories, turning back toward the very beginning. The trials had always indicated at the start what the challenger was to accomplish. In the first, it was, first, face your past. In the second, it was, behold the unknowable present. And this third time it was, face the calamity that shall come. The calamity that shall come, did that mean it was the future? The trials first showed a past linked to one's greatest regret, then they showed a present that did not and could not exist. Last, the challenger was shown a future she would inevitably have to confront head-on. These were the entirety of the trials the tomb had prepared for her. Would that future, of a place enveloped with some kind of twilight, a future where she would tearfully hate someone, actually come to pass one day? YY73 Golden Agito MP4 Directs.com. After a time, neither accepting nor rejecting it, Emilia's thoughts were interrupted as she realized something. The light Emilia had touched earlier was gone, leaving only a palpable void. Even so, the lights numbered 20, so there were still plenty to go. This was the moment she suddenly grasped the meaning behind the phenomenon. The lights. Each and every one of the lights hovering in the darkness was a future that awaited Emilia. This trial probably would not come to an end until she had witnessed them all. Were the futures she would bear witness to all different from one another? Or would they be continuations of the one she just visited? The answer would come once she touched another light and saw its future. When she moved to the next light over from the blank space, it became a clear blue passage, like an azure sky. It's just like you said. That kid's our enemy, and our wounds run deep. I can't use healing magic, so even if we back out now, I might not be able to save you. Then, but that kid's still a kid. Isn't this enough? The scene differed from the one before, with two figures standing atop sheer cliffs with a commanding view. One of them had his back turned toward the deep forest behind him. She could not see his face, but she remembered his voice. It was one of the people closest to her. Perhaps not as much as the other person, but she definitely remembered him. The person atop the opposite cliff was on one knee, and as he knelt in this position, he was looking down at the other. Though she could not see his expression, Emilia could tell both of them were making terribly melancholic faces. You're a hero. You can't be anything but a hero. Thank you for saving me, damn it. When the other figure reached out with his hand, the figure with his back 74 golden agato